Hello everyone, Happy New Year's. My name is James B. This is the James B Vodcast. It's a visual podcast every Friday on YouTube. You can also get listings. This part you're looking at now could be on Facebook or any kind of social media, but you can always go to YouTube, type in James B Podcast, or just visit my page, why don't you? jamesb.ca. Sign up for my monthly newsletter, and you can always check the podcast and the vodcast every Friday. All right, so I want to start off with some listings, and I want to start off by saying thank you to two sponsors especially. barberfinancial.com. Captain Paul kind of gave me this idea and suggested I do this years ago. Well, I finally got around to it, and thank you for supporting that idea. Also, Barbarian Steakhouse, Aaron Barbarian and his crew, very supportive of this. And the clubs I'm going to mention, the 4 clubs that want me to tell you what's happening, well, they're all places I go all the time. I should give you a heads up. I am now booking Jazz Bistro. I'm their entertainment director for 2020. And so I can promise you all those are going to be great concerts, but everything I talk about here is exciting, and I'm going to stay innately inclusive and go to all the clubs all the time. I also have a radio show at Jazz FM 91 called Jazz in the City. 18 years of promoting all the clubs, not just the ones on this podcast, but all of the clubs in Toronto. If they book local music, especially jazz, I am so grateful. So I'm going to start off right now with Canadian Jazz Quartet playing Old Mill Inn Homesmith Bar tonight. The Old Mill Toronto has undergone some changes over the years, but it remains Hogwarts chic. It's like a groovy old castle to party in. And the Homesmith Bar, they spell classy with a C, not a K. It's a classy bar. Canadian Jazz Quartet are there with Dave Dunlop, the great trumpeter. Saturday, Mike Downs, a double Juno Award-winning Mike Downs, with Robbie Botosh and Ted Quinlan. All of them are band leaders. All of them make incredible music, and they're playing together. So that's tomorrow night. And Thursday, Christopher Simmons on piano, with Artie Roth on bass and Kevin Dempsey on drums. All the sets at Old Mill Toronto are 7:30 to 10:30, no cover, and just a $20 minimum. Lots of parking across the street, also close to Old Mill subway station. Lula Lounge are taking a much-deserved break. They'll be back in action on January the 10th. Go to lula.ca, take a look at what's coming up, make yourself some reservations. It's always nice to look forward to something. And that is a cozy home away from home. I look forward to a show I'm going to be doing there, but not until February 13th. I'm going to do a pre-Valentine's Day show for those who can't wait for the 14th because you're so much in love. Okay, that's my story and I'm sticking to it. Hughes Room Live, Saturday night, tomorrow night, Luke and the Apostles. They're a 1960s blues band. They rarely get together. It's a reunion. It's a rare gig. If you love the blues, check it out, Luke and the Apostles. And on Wednesday, January 8th, folk heroes Connie Caldor and Garnett Rogers. Lots of folk over at Hughes Room. And Thursday the 9th, some really interesting singing. It's like Indian singing and celestial folk music. It's kind of poppy, but it's really dreamy. And that's Karit Kaur and Loom. So that looks really cool. And now at Jazz Bistro tonight, Joaquin Nunez Hinaldo. He brings the best Latin jazz, all these Cuban musicians into the place. It is so hot in there. It's only a $20 cover. And on Saturday, Raul Beneja and his band Blue Standard have a special guest, Allison Young, on saxophone. And what else? Jessica Lalonde, one of my favorite singers ever. She can sing opera, she can sing pop, she sings a lot of jazz, really old stuff, and really beautiful. This is a date night, folks. 7 p.m. show, one long set. So come in at 6 o'clock, have dinner, and enjoy yourself. And on Tuesday, Jordana Tulski is there on the 7th. She is very modern. She's a jazz singer, and she can do show tunes and all kinds of stuff, but on this gig, she's going to be using samples. She's got a guitar player with her, and it's going to be far out and really, really fun. Tuesdays at Jazz Bistro are going to be the just a little off-center nights for those of you who like something a little experimental or a little bit special. Jazz Jam with David Rubel, who is my guest in a few minutes. He's a great sax man, and he's been leading a jazz jam there for several months and packing them in. And Colin Hunter from Thursday to Saturday next week. All right, we're going to talk to David Rubel right now, and I do want to thank everybody at Patreon. You too could sponsor something like this. You know, it's January, you're about to join a gym, and then you'll probably quit before Valentine's Day. Save that $500. Go to Patreon. You could sponsor my show, $5 a month. Thank you very much. But you could also find some other artists that need your help. It's fun to be a philanthropist. Even if you only give a little, it all turns out really well. Anyway, we're going to move on. We're going to get to David Rubel right now and talk about his love of saxophone. Hey, how are you?
Good. How are you, James?
Good. So, tell me about your love of composing, because I really enjoy your music. Where did that come from?
Well, you know, I'll be honest. I mean, the first composing that I really got into came from one of my mentors, Mike Murley, and I met him when I was really young. I think 14 at a jazz camp, and he put me in his own combo, even though I was probably not good enough to be there. And we played a couple of his tunes, and I was so amazed by how new everything felt, and it felt so fresh and modern. And I knew at that point that I really wanted to write music like that.
I'm thinking particularly of the song Krypton. That goes all over the place. It's for you, sometimes it's kind of cinematic, right?
You know what, I have been described that way in a couple reviews, so I've been getting that a lot, and I do like that. Story is a really big part of music to me, and I love for the audience to feel like, you know, they're watching a story happen, they're listening to a story, something's happening.
You mentioned the school when you're 14. That's a good early start. How early was it? When did you figure out you wanted to play saxophone?
Well, I started pretty normal time. Like, I think I was in grade 6, and my mom had taken my cousin in for a week, and she was going to buy her a guitar, and we went to the music store at Cosmo Music, and while we were there, she asked me if I wanted to play an instrument, and while I was there, I tried trumpet. I liked that. I tried trombone. I didn't really like that. And I tried sax, and I just thought, this is it. Yeah.
So grade 6,
yeah.
Making notes out of a saxophone.
Notes might be generous, but...
Yeah. But you knew you wanted it. Did you have some heroes? Had you seen videos or footage of sax players that made you want to play that?
A little bit. I mean, my dad has been he's a good jazz fan. He goes out to shows, and we always had some great records, some Ella, some Charlie Parker and Cannonball, and so I always knew it was there, but I wasn't super aware of it.
And what was your first sax? Tenor?
No, alto, actually, and then I changed right. Actually, that's a really funny story. When I was in grade 12, I went to Long and McQuaid, and I was asking them for a mouthpiece that would make me sound more like John Coltrane. And Greg Eskins, who used to be the manager there, he said, I have just the thing for you. And he came back with a tenor saxophone. And I laughed, and I kind of looked at myself and where I wanted to go and thought, like, he's right, actually. Like, maybe this is the time to move to tenor.
So did you rent to own that tenor? Was that your plan when you first started?
No, I was really, really fortunate that my parents were able to help me out, and they bought me a really nice Mark VI, and
wow.
Yeah, I was really lucky.
And a lot of people I know got their very first instrument through this kind of assisted funding. Their first credit rating was actually because of Long and McQuaid.
Wow, I didn't know that. That's really neat, actually.
Yeah.
Well, I know that they're a really great company like that. They've always been like that, loaning instruments to musicians even before their rental program started.
Yeah. So you got a tenor sax. Now you're off and running. And where do you go to school for that?
I went to Humber, and then I went to U of T, but I've been out for a while now.
Wait.
Yeah.
You did how many years of Humber?
I did 3 years at Humber, and then I transferred to U of T, which, I mean, they're both incredible schools, but I had heard at the time that the new degree program that at Humber might not be recognized by other schools, and of course it is, and all's good.
Yeah, but at the time you were like, I gotta go there.
Yeah.
And who was your favorite teacher over at U of T?
Ooh, at U of T, I mean, I had a few really great ones. Chase Sanborn was a huge help to me in business and life, and getting me some gigs and stuff like that. Mike Murley was there, and he was always great. Tim Reese was there for a while.
Right, from the Rolling Stones.
Yeah, and as well Alex Dean and Terry Promé.
Wow, they're all amazing. Every person you mentioned. Incredible.
Absolutely. Yeah, huge.
Now, I love that you mentioned about helping you get some gigs. Chase Sanborn is like that. What did you have to do? For musicians who are leaving scale school and they have to go into the real world now and make a living, what was your plan? What did you do when you got out of there?
Well, I was a particularly dumb 22-year-old, so I didn't have a lot of a plan, but I had been gigging for quite a while. Like, I started gigging a little in high school, and I kind of knew a little bit about how it worked, and I knew I had pretty good repertoire. Plan-wise, my plan was basically to just, do a little teaching, send out my press kit to different places, and I'd say the first year after school, a lot of that was building stuff, getting some photos taken, building a website, getting some recordings. And if I was starting now, of course, that would be like social media would be a huge part of it, Instagram and Twitter and Facebook and everything.
Did you put a band together quickly?
I've always had bands on the run. So right then, yeah, I was playing a lot with Malcolm Connor and Winston Matsushita and Robin Claxton, and so that's the band that I did that first album with.
Yeah,
the one you mentioned with Krypton. Yeah. And so we were doing a lot of playing and a lot of originals, and also delving into jazz standards and bebop and that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm. And then do you still have that band, or did you move on to work with all different people?
Been working with some different people right now. Right now, I guess the main band I've been playing with is the band that's the house band for the Jazz Bistro Jam, which is Amanda Tossoff on piano.
Wow.
Yeah, she's one of my favorite musicians. Dan Fortan on bass, and Ethan Ardelli on drums.
Wow, well,
yeah.
That is killer.
They're so great. It's so fun to play with them. Yeah.
So let's talk about this Jazz Bistro. This is doubly interesting for me because I'm learning as I'm talking to you about this. Yeah. I've heard that Jazz Bistro have been doing these jams for quite a while now. When did you start there?
Yeah, we started it in September, and it's been really great because I get to meet so many people. I'd say pretty much every week there is some player who comes out who was just so totally killer, and I've never even heard of them. And I mean, I'm 32, and I've been in Toronto in jazz since I was 18, and I did think that I knew everybody who was great, and I was so wrong about that.
I figured that out at Jazz FM. 10 years in, I'm still learning. So
it's crazy.
Yeah, it's a big city, isn't it?
It really is. Yeah.
So with a band like that, you must have any musician would want to go down and play with that band.
I think so.
So
Absolutely.
How do you juggle? I'm curious as to your process. How do you figure out, because you want to be inclusive and get everybody up, but you also don't want someone to stay up
Absolutely.
for too long.
You know what, so far everybody's been really good about that, and a couple times if I've had to say like, hey, we're going to give someone else a chance, everybody's been really cool about that. But the way that I do it is I do a sign-up sheet, and if there are people who sign up who I don't know, which happens all the time, I go over and I talk to them, and I try and gauge what their experience level is like, and I try and put bands together that are of a similar level, and sometimes putting somebody who's maybe pretty good but not professional with a couple pros, and giving them the chance to kind of play with people who are more experienced, and that's a great time. And
so it's a whole different skill set, isn't it? Like hosting a jazz jam is not like just hiring a band and doing a show.
Certainly not. It's it's something that I found really useful with that is in my private teaching practice, I do a series of adult jazz ensembles where I put people together like that, and that skill has really transferred in terms of getting people started with how to counting in a tune and stuff like that, picking a tune, that sort of thing, and that's really transferred. Especially obviously I don't need to do that for any pros who come out, or even college or university students.
Yeah, but you're right. Some people, they'd have to call the tune, call the key, and count it in.
Absolutely.
Not everybody does that. Yeah.
No, sometimes it's a little uncomfortable, or they just don't know, and it's nice because it's been a really great learning environment, and seen a lot of people just in September come back every week, and they sound better every week, and they sound more experienced, and they're more comfortable. As I'm sure you can imagine, some people who are less familiar with the jam, they come on stage and you can tell they're nervous. And
Well, there's a $120,000 piano on the stage, so it might be beyond what they're used to, right? Yeah.
So, play good and don't spill a drink on the piano.
Right. Don't put a drink near the piano.
Absolutely.
How would you deal with singers? Because I guess you only have a few singers per night, right?
Usually a few singers, and usually, I mean, if a singer has been less experienced, they've reached out to me beforehand, because we have the hashtag 251 Jam, and we have the 251 Jam at Jazz Bistro Facebook group. And so a bunch of people find it through that, and I do a lot of promotion with that. And they'll usually reach out to me and just say, hey, I'm a singer, I'm not a pro, I'd like to sing a couple of these songs, what do you think would be good? And, often we'll work it out beforehand, and I'm happy to do that.
Do you do a little research on YouTube to make sure they're not tone deaf?
I've looked a few times, but sometimes people who are, often I'd say if they have stuff on YouTube, maybe I've already heard of them, or if they're not a pro, then they might not have anything anyways. But yeah,
Right.
usually good to give everyone a try, right?
But not an open mic, it's a jazz jam.
Definitely, yeah, absolutely.
I'm always concerned about that, because if somebody comes in and they're banana crazy and they're playing with amazing musicians, things can slide pretty quickly.
Absolutely. That's why I always try and talk to everybody there. And when I'm on stage, so the band does a first set, and we play about 45 minutes. And in between, of course, I introduce the band, but I talk to the audience a little bit about how the jam works and how there's a sign-up sheet, and how if I don't know you and you sign up, come find me and we'll just chat, and I'll make sure to put them in a group that we'll support them and be around their level and that sort of thing.
Yeah. So what do you have planned next? Are you going to make another record?
I am. Oh, I'm so glad you asked me that.
Yeah.
Thank
Well,
you.
I can't wait to hear a new one.
I have a really neat one in the works. So for almost a year now, I've been doing a Wednesday morning session at my place with Richard Whiteman and Kevin Cody. And so we're just talking about recording in early spring, I think.
And what is there a theme?
Well, it's Richard's playing bass now, and he's been playing bass for 15 years, but it's chordless trio. So there's no piano player or guitarist. And so it's a very sort of free, wide open environment. And it's been really great in that regard, because it gives me a lot of opportunity to explore. And we've been doing mostly standards, and I'm not sure if a lot of people know this term, but contrafact, which means you take an existing standard and you write a new melody. So I think we're going to do a mix of standards and contrafacts for the record. And really
That's funny. 2 weeks ago, Genevieve Maritet was my guest, and she went through describing the contrafact and giving examples. So this is really good.
Yeah.
Well, I wish you luck. I'm going to see you Wednesdays over at Jazz Bistro. That's for sure.
Absolutely.
I will be there. And congratulations on the first record. Looking forward to the second one.
Thanks so much, Jaymz.
Yeah, cheers. Well, thank you, David. All right, coming up next week, Ernesto Cervini. This guy, he plays drums, he leads a bunch of bands, he plays clarinet, he plays piano, but most of all, when he's not making music, he's got Orange Grove publicity, and he's promoting other people's music. We're going to find out how he juggles all that and being a dad coming up next week. It's kind of funny because he looks so young, and I'm the guy with a body of a dad, and I have no kids. So I'm going to find out how he does it next week. Until then, see you later. Bye.